Welcome to another episode of Bros. Here tonight, Tuesday, April 1st, and this we are live. It's not an April Fool's Day. We are here with the Nature Boy, Crazy Man, Alex on tech, and Craig Hannum is back with us. Again, always love having Craig on here. Tonight we've got two topics. One I think is one that the guys and I have all talked about is going to be pretty important. It's about kind of a secret language that's going on with the kids these days, and then we'll talk about the transfer portal and NIL and how college athletics is not better than it used to be, and 19-year-olds are making seven figures for that. But anyway, before we get started, let's get right into it. Pulling up the screenshot. This is actually, I want this one first. This is from the Netflix series Adolescence. It was basically this woman posted on LinkedIn, "Are we parenting in the dark?" And if you read that, you have to. I'm gonna leave it up for anybody who's watching can see. The first thing is one of my daughters recently told me a horse emoji is code for ketamine, and his kids as young as 12 or 13 understand this secret language. Okay, so simple texts are now representing drugs and ketamine. What the heck? Mr. Anna, what can you share with us, my friend? You are the resident professional here.
So what that show Adolescence came out. My wife told me about it. We watched it, and it's a 4-part series, and it's based on actual events. So I said, okay. So I started looking it up, and come to find out, she sends me the CNN article that I sent out to all the guys, and Ed, you sent it out to the rest of the world, that it's a secret language where certain colored hearts define interest in another person. Now, at the moment, it's between heterosexual people. Okay, so like a red heart means I love you. A pink heart, I believe, or whatever. They had different. One means I'm horny. One's mean it's never going to happen. One means you're a great person, but that's fine. That's not the part we're worried about. This is all based around the foundation of a simple term called incel, which came about in the 90s from a young lady who was faith-based, and she goes, "Hey, I want to create a culture of involuntary celibates," meaning let's wait till we're married. So it had benevolence behind it. It had a good mission, and it had decent intent. Well, people today have taken that word incel. So if you see that on your kids' text streaming or text conversations, whatever, chat rooms, whatever. Oh, and make sure you pay attention to game room chat rooms, specifically PlayStation and Xbox. They have a chat room where these guys can talk to each other, and no one knows the wiser. There's an app for Xbox where parents can monitor their kids' usage. They could actually shut off the console and say, "Hey, you've been playing for like 19 hours straight. You should probably go to the bathroom before you get a blood clot, you tool." There's these things happening. That actually happened. The kid actually died from a blood clot. He played for like 48 hours straight for some little tournament for Xbox. He was pooping in a bucket, a 5-gallon bucket, ordering pizza, having the guy bring it in, doors unlocked, pop it over here, do it. But so when everything was said and done, he actually sat up, blood clot, straight to the heart. Yeah.
Oh,
so
that's Craig, spell incel.
Incel. If I spell it phonetically, India, November, Charlie, Echo, Lima, Sierra. Basically, taking the word in celibate and cranking it down to just incel. So I'm going to read the definition according, and this is from an independent reporter from a .org company, so it is bona fide. And let's be honest, when I saw that the article was from CNN originally that I sent to Ed, I was like, okay, let me clarify, and I did. It is factual. Here's what it means. Incels, or involuntary celibates, are another subculture within the manosphere, and that's a whole different ball of wax, that has drawn widespread criticism for its extreme and often violent rhetoric. Incels are men or boys who feel they are unable to attract sexual or romantic partners despite wanting relationships, and they attribute this to factors beyond their control, such as their appearance or societal norms. Now, the manosphere was actually created by a guy named Andrew Tate, who was very, you guys seen his stuff. He's very boisterous.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, he's wealthy. He's all that. Well, he has created this culture of this 80-20 philosophy. Okay, and I hope he's watching. That'd be great. So we can talk shop because I love picking people's brains, but he is the epitome of masculinity, how it's defined in his world against feminism, which feminism in its truth, in its design, was not against men. It was building stronger women during the movement, which I agree. And that's why we have women's sports. Feminism, that whole thing brought us to women's sports. Now we're fighting to keep women's sports women. But anyways, that's a whole different thing. Manosphere was based on this 80-20 concept. So if you see that on a text, the 100, which usually meant 100% I'm on board. Like if we're talking, the five of us, if Ed says, hey, are you coming on tonight? I put the 100, to him, that's 100% I'm coming on. We all know this. For the kids, it means that that you're part of that 80-20 group, which means 80% of women will only be attracted to a 20% group of men. And if you, as a young boy, are not part of that 20%, and you're starting to come into your hormonal stage, testosterone starting to build, you get past the acne, you get past all that crap, and you are now growing up as a teen, you're in high school, and you got to navigate this massive beast called, being a teenager in a high school or primary school, if it's overseas, whatever it's called, where you are part of the less than the 20%, or not the 20%. What do you think they're going to do? This show, Adolescent, depicts that in its entirety, to the point where this kid was being bullied, cyberbullied, to where he couldn't take it anymore. And I'm not going to tell you guys the rest of it, but it's horrible. But it actually happens, where people are being bullied so much. That poor kid from Virginia, that 10-year-old little girl, she was being cyberbullied 24/7. Mom and dad had no clue. Now, you guys know my deal. When I say who's at fault when someone takes their life, it's the individual. But we have to look. What's up, Michael? We have to look, and I know Michael's going to agree, contributing factors that surround the incident of suicide we have to look at. That was my job when I was a program manager for the Army. What led up to the incident? It wasn't to place blame. Blame was on the individual who took their life. Otherwise, it's not suicide. It's an act of God. It's a natural disaster. It's an illness. It's an accident, whatever it might be. When it comes to suicide, the only person at fault is the individual. But let's look at the contributing factors that led up to it. Kids that are being bullied 24/7 and have access to view their bullying 24/7 without being checked by a parent who says, hey, one, why does a 10-year-old have a smartphone? I mean, I had my opinion on that. Why are you just giving them a digital babysitter? And you guys probably have seen it in every region of this country where kids are being babysat by digital media. It's the iPad, it's the game console, it's the apps. Oh, but mom, dad, my apps keep me connected to my friends. Bullshit. What keeps you connected to your friends is a freaking phone call, talking to them face to face. But I was actually told, hey, why are you calling me? Just text me. Yeah, I don't work like that. I need to hear in your voice what you want me to do. What's your intent? What's going on? But when I talk to somebody now,
Craig, take a breath. Take a breath.
You
You
guys know I see this all the time when it comes to suicidal behavior. And 9 times out of 10, when it's with a teenager, and the stats, when I was the program manager from 2015 to 2019, the stats read that between the ages of 14 and 18, social media was the biggest contributing factor to suicidal behavior for young women. It's now 10 to 18. Yeah. Do you guys think it's going to go down?
Well, Alan and I are in school, so we see it all the time.
What do you guys see in there?
I work at a high school. I see it all the freaking time, man.
I have 2 high school kids. Trust me, I see it all day long.
Yeah.
I see it very personally.
My biggest fear, because not only is my title school counselor, but also anti-bully specialist, I feel like we work so hard, or some of us work so hard to try and get it to stop, but you can't be everywhere. And when you have kids,
you want to, but you can't.
You want to, and you want to knock some sense into the kids and into the parents. But I feel like you're fighting a losing battle, because it is used as daycare or whatever you want to call it, occupy my kids so I could probably be on my phone as well. Yeah. That's what's scary. I mean, go out to dinner. Go out to dinner.
Hold on for a second. I want, Mike. You joined us late. We're talking about the around the show Adolescence from the Netflix. Yeah. With you you have 2 teens. I mean, everybody here, our kids are older, for the most part. You're the probably has the youngest kids who would probably most fit this
Yep.
thing that we're talking about. What say you, sir, of this
So
kind of
here's the
mess?
way I look at stuff that goes on with cell phones and social media accounts to start with, and it's very simple. In any instance of my life growing up where I felt like I was bullied or where I was being a dick and bullying somebody, one of the major reasons I was getting away with it for as long as I did, or as little as I did, or as little as it was me, is because we were knucklehead kids and there wasn't adult supervision around. Because when there was adult supervision around, an adult usually steps in and says, "What the fuck are you doing? Leave them alone."
Exactly. Yes.
And not always. Some adults are okay with it. I mean, we've all got the cartoon sort of Beavis and Butthead gym teacher in our lives who was fine with it and in fact sort of encouraged it. But for the most part, if you were being picked on by another kid or you're picking on another kid and there was an adult there, they'd step in and say, "Knock it off." Social media and the little private messages and direct messages and the group chats these kids are on are completely unsupervised.
Yes.
And endlessly,
and it never turns off. At the end
And
of
it
the
never
day,
turns off.
we would go home to dinner, and that was it.
And not only does it never turn off,
Right.
the kids have that. It isn't exactly anonymity, but all the studies show that a guy will argue more rudely and a person will argue more rudely and crudely and directly over a social media platform than face to face in a room. The minute you get face to face,
yes.
And I've seen because my daughter and my son are very open about showing me stuff, say and do horrible things. I mean, an example I think that is perfectly legitimate as one of these sort of situations where, consider it an honest misunderstanding, but still a perfectly acceptable use of parenting, was the Boy Scouts troop that my son is in has a Discord group or some sort of group, text group that they all chat on. And it's all used for Boy Scout information because it's Boy Scouts is sort of, older kids lead the younger kids. And so the kids who are senior patrol leaders will send out messages. Don't forget to bring your water bottles to the camp out or whatever to all the other scouts.
Yeah.
And my son and another boy his age who have known each other since they were little jits in the second grade and have a great relationship were clowning around saying, "Are we going to go hiking the 10 miles or are we going to go hiking the 12 miles? And this one kid said, "Let's go hiking 15 miles. And my son, who's known this kid Ian forever, said, "I'll kill you if you suggest something like that again." And some younger kid showed that to their parents. And the scoutmaster pulled Jack aside.
Took it out of context.
Right.
It's out of context, but I'd rather have it be out of context and a little over super.
Right.
I'd rather have that than no parent ever saw it, and maybe it could have gone the other way, right? It could have been kid. Next time you say something like that, I'm going to pull my scout knife on you. It could have actually been something scarier for the younger kids or whatever. And I'm sort of glad somebody ratted him out because it reminded my son that you're in a leadership role here. There are younger kids around. You got to watch what you say.
I'd rather have somebody overreact than never react.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. I'd rather have somebody overreact.
But I think that's part of the problem with the kids nowadays. They don't, the old snitches get stitches thing. They kind of have to juggle that. When you get, if you're young enough, you kind of throw it out. But we have to kind of give them a safe space to say, okay, and see that the problem is you can't be, as Craig, we were all talking earlier, we can't be there all the time for them. We can't.
So you got to teach them the values so that they don't act like that. And when they do act like that, they recognize it for garbage and they turn and walk away. But as to the only other point I'll make, and I'm sorry I was late because at exactly 9:28,
you didn't miss much.
And I was the guy
Craig talked for the first 10 minutes of the show.
I'm sorry.
Be salty. That's good.
I'll take the next 10. We'll go around in 10 minutes. No, all I was going to say about suicide is I spent a lot of time thinking about it, especially after Robin Williams died. And what I've really concluded is, my own personal opinion on this is, every suicide is a battle lost. And the battle can be lost to chemical depression, which is hard for anybody to really help a person unless they've got the right medication, the right support group, and the right doctor. But the battle can also be lost to endless onslaught by your peers when you're a young kid of abuse and bullying and all that stuff. And some battles are unfair. And it sucks that these kids are fighting these unfair battles, because if they're fighting them alone, it's unfair. If they're against the world online, it's an unfair fight.
No, you're right.
But I mean, just look at that. I mean, there was the story of the 10-year-old.
I don't think of it as the fault. I mean, Craig's paradigm of a fault thing. I hear what he's saying. The person who lost the battle is the person who lost the battle. No one else snuck up behind him and knifed him in the back. They lost the battle. But some fights are fairer than others, and it's just horrible when it happens.
You're right, man. And the way I say it like that when I'm doing my classes, so that kids, people understand that when it's the blame game that starts. You know, the uncle is this, no, that person's at fault. And I always say they surrendered to hopelessness and helplessness. They lost their fight. But when you said about Robin Williams, that hit me huge, only because I guarded that dude for 2 weeks when he was in Kuwait and Iraq. So I'm going to show you.
Oh, wow.
Here you go.
Wow.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, wow.
Was that for was that for Good Morning Vietnam?
No, that was for he did a USO tour. So Robin Williams always wanted to follow in the footsteps of Bob Hope, if you guys didn't know. So he wanted to do those USO tours. So
wow. That's cool.
It was interesting because my team, we were in what's called Task Force Warfighter, which was a lot of classified shit. But anyways, my commander said, hey,
we could, hey, but there's nothing classified anymore. You're not on Signal, so you can go ahead and tell us. You're on StreamYard. StreamYard's a classified. It's a classified thing.
Easy there, Ed. I don't want to be collateral damage.
Wrong weekend.
I'm sorry. Yeah, wrong weekend. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so the commander's like, I'm going to give you some time off. I was like, no, I don't need R&R. He goes, yes, you do, but it's not R&R. He was going to love this. He's got an envelope in his hand. He's like, here. I was like, don't give me that shit. I was like, my team and I, he's like, you've been going 100 miles an hour. I want you to do this. Trust me, you're going to love it. Because he knew that he was my favorite comedian, actor, all that jazz. So I opened the envelope and I was like, holy shit. He's like, the helicopter's rolling. Go. He's like, 2 weeks. Just don't let him get killed. That's all. So I was his bodyguard, and I'll tell you this: behind the stage and off stage, besides being a hairy freaking dude, he was just calm, and he was very, very quiet and very, just asking more questions about what I do and what's going on here and the whys. He wanted to understand. He was just a really, really nice guy. On stage, he turned something else on. He would make jokes about shit that was happening in the moment. It was brilliant.
He was genius.
And he was great. And when the time was done and he did his 2 weeks and he went from Kuwait to Baghdad and some other places, I walk him up the steps to the jet that's taking him to so we're down there at what was it? Al-Fala, some prince, freaking one of 500 princes in Kuwait, whatever. So at that airport, I walk him up the steps and he turns around. I give him a hug. I said, well, take care, sir. I said, I will never forget this. He's like, well, aren't you going with me all the way back to the States? I was like, no. I said, you've got State Department DSS guys that are going to cover down from here on out. He goes, well, where are you going? I was like, north. And he gave me this look. He's like, you mean north? I was like, yeah, I got work to do. He's like, oh, well, be careful. I was like, well, sir, if I was careful, I would have joined the Coast Guard. What's funny was that shot was actually taken from a screenshot from the show Come Inside My Mind. It was an HBO special. My son was in our library watching it. And he's like, Dad, he's screaming, you're on TV. When I did bodyguard work, you never saw me. Like,
right.
And I look, I was like, oh shit, that is me. He's like, Dad, is that Robin Williams? I was like, yeah, it is. He goes, well, what are you doing sitting next to him? I was like, I was his bodyguard. For what? So he didn't get killed. One person? I was like, weird, huh? So anyways, he's like, oh my God, tell me about it. So I told him about it. I was like, well, before we got on that Chinook, he was kind of nervous. First time on a helicopter, a military helicopter. So we're on it. And you guys know what Chinook is, right? Double rotary. Ed, why'd you put me out of focus? Is that for like the effect? What is this?
No, you're in focus.
Okay.
I didn't change anything.
That's you.
Let me change eyes.
That's you.
Anyways,
Yeah,
so we get on the bird, and as soon as we're in Iraqi airspace, 2 AH-64 Apache gunships are to our left and right as for protection. And he's like looking through the port window. He gets up and he walks over He's like, Greg, what the hell is that? I was like, no, it's a Apache gunship. He goes, well, why is it there? I said, we got one on this side. He said, why? I was like, well, I apologize, sir. We're in Iraq. He's like, well, why do we need these? I was like, you know what? It's my fault. I forgot to put on the belly of the bird, please don't shoot Robin Williams aboard.
Right.
His face got terrible.
Yeah.
And he's like, hold
Oh,
on.
a joke. That's a good one.
Right. He's like, one, he said, can I use that later? I was like, yeah, of course, take it. He's like, hold on, they shoot at you guys in the air? I was like, all the fucking time, sir. He's like, where's my, I was like, body armor. So I got him all kitted up. He even want the wrap in case we hit water. I was like, hey, I got to tell you, sir, if we land in water, we're in the wrong freaking country, man.
Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, you'll fall in sand first.
Nothing's like, so he's like, is it okay if I just go to sleep? And, the vibration of the bird, put you to sleep. But before he fell asleep, we had two gunners and they had M134s on either side. That's a minigun. And he said, hey, if we come under attack, can I fire the miniguns? I was like, no, not at all. His publicist, was her Lisa? She was a lady sitting next to my left. So I had two people I was guarding, and he just sat next to me. He kind of leaned up and next to me on my right side of my shoulder, and he passed out. And it was pretty cool. It was. So when he died by suicide in 2014, I was kitting up for a raid with the FBI, and my commander comes to my office. He's like, "Hey, are you okay?" Because when I would get ready, I know we're distracted, but when I would get ready, I would shut off everything, all the noise, my computer, radio, everything, so I could prepare myself mentally. They come across, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm fine. Why are you asking if I'm okay, man? It's not my first time doing this." "Oh, all right." So my director comes across. He's like, "Hey, man, are you all right?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." "What the hell? What's going on here?" My intel guy came across. "Craig, are you good?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? Why is everyone asking me if I'm okay? What the is going on here?" Like, "Hey, Robin Williams is dead." I was like,
Oh.
So my FBI liaison, Eric Benson, who was picking me up and taking me to the helicopter to do this raid, when I got in the vehicle, he's like, "Hey, man, are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Hey, can I be point?" He's like, "No problem." Huge mistake, because I heard a guy that didn't deserve to be as hurt as much as we did, but he was a terrorist. But still, it was a capture, not a kill. I mean, he's alive. I mean, best I know. But it was, I lashed out, and that's not healthy. Because when you
Sure.
love somebody,
Right.
like if we ever met each other, "Yeah, man, I love you, dude." That's what's missing in our society, and that's why we have the secret language of cyberbullying.
Right.
People are afraid to tell each other, "I love you, dude," until they're gone. And then they say,
Right.
on the podium doing the eulogy, "I love that man," but you never told him one time that you did.
Right.
That's right.
That's what's missing.
And it's unfair because like we were just talking about. Yeah, I'll come to you in 1 second, Alex. How they hide behind the cell phones these days and the computers, where the six of us, if we were dealing with anything, we dealt with it in person. And I don't know, it's tough. Go ahead, Alex.
Well, actually, Robin Williams was also one of my favorite actors / comedians, and unfortunately, many people like him who are like funny and outgoing on the screen have some personal problems. They have suicide issues and other issues. They're not as funny in real life. Okay, so they're in a little world. Sometimes, I mean, of course, you see them like all funny, all great on the screen. Making jokes and kind of entertaining all of us. But in real life, many of them are not happy, okay, unfortunately,
Right.
and that leads to
A lot of
So,
Andy Kaufman.
Yeah.
I'm missing another one from Saturday Night Live.
how about that chef that used to tour the world, Anthony Bourdain?
Yeah, Anthony Bourdain.
It's a map.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's interesting. I'm a big Marx Brothers fan, and I've read biographies of all the different brothers, and all of them to a name, especially Groucho. One of the silliest jokes on that TV show Friends was at one point Phoebe's dating a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And Chandler comes in and talks for 5 minutes and makes a bunch of jokes, and the guy goes, "You're a funny guy," and he goes, "Thanks." And there's a pause. He goes, "I wouldn't want to be there when the laughter stops." And Chandler gets this look on his face like, "Oh my God, you got me pegged," because that's a lot of these funny guys.
Yeah,
comedians are.
Yeah, he had his issues too.
And Matthew Perry was certainly right there.
I mean, look at Matthew Perry.
Yeah. Alan, you wanted to say something,
right? And he couldn't. Oh, thank you,
I
Laura.
want-
That's very sweet. Thank you.
Good,
I wanna
crazy
agree
man.
with Craig, I mean, I know we talked before the show started, and we were also talking about you have those 5 friends, and you actually have really, truly a few friends that you have your 6 p.m. friends, your 9 p.m., and you have your 3 a.m. friends,
Yeah.
and you always check on your friends. And
Mhm.
I think it goes with the generation. I always check in with the guys that are still left of what I would classify my rat pack from the 80s, late 70s, 80s, the kids that I grew up with. And you'll send messages, hey, checking on you, thinking about you, and so forth. And you'll get those replies like, thank you. I needed that. Or I'd send a reel. I sent something to one of my buddies that I've grown up with since the 6th grade. And he came back and goes, I can't talk now. My dad passed away.
Oh man.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's tough.
it's like, wow. And knowing his family and being part of the family, and it's like, and he'll go, I appreciate you. I love you. I mean, you don't have to be blood to be brothers.
Yeah.
And you earn that by working with each other by either through the fire, out of the fire. You know your friends who your friends are. They're with you in the highs, and they're also with you in the lows. And when I was teaching in middle school and high school, I always talk to my kids about going, hey, do you want these kids to be the author of your story on controlling you? Or are you going to be the author? Because by giving them that opportunity, you're giving them control to tell you what you can and can't do. And I learned a lot from my middle schoolers and high schoolers when my daughter started middle school and high school, because I was learning all the different apps that they had to go on and so forth. And I learned that you could have this one app that was called Safe Teen. Safe Teen was allowed, you could read the kids' texts, you could read their emails, you could see their photos, and so forth. And I told my daughter, you're going to have it. I'm paying the bill. You're having it. I will only check it if I feel that you're lying to me, or if you come to me and say, hey, there's this issue.
Yeah.
And out of the 2 years that I had it, I think I checked it 3 times. Two.
That's called good parenting. It
Yeah,
doesn't
well,
happen
yeah,
everywhere.
well,
Doesn't
yeah.
happen everywhere.
Hold let me hold your thought for here. I was just what prompted all this for the thousands and thousands of people watching us tonight, and thank you for the thousands watching us.
Wow.
Yeah, I was
We
just
eclipsed our
trying-
record by 1,000.
Yeah, we're 1,000%.
It's because of Michael's
it's
beard.
good.
I mean, look at it.
Yeah.
Thank God for
Oh, maybe
my
that was.
sister.
Maybe I'm seeing. Maybe my glasses need
Highlights.
fixing. Maybe.
Region. It's very
Yeah,
sexy.
but this is all based on a post from Skila Andreen and LinkedIn, and it good and it's great that we talk about how we do it. But I think just I'm gonna she's talking about the kids nowadays, because I think that's where we, as the guys who grew up in the 80s, need to kind of say, how can we help them? Even for the 5 of us, Mike's got the teenagers, but the five. Now, Craig, how old's your boy?
My kids are 24, 23.
Okay, so you're like me. You're like the rest of us. And that's what I thought. Mike just got started later in life, and that's God bless him
My
for.
kids are a little younger. My kids are a little.
But your kids are in college.
Yeah.
You're not. So, but
Can I make another point after you're
Yes.
done?
She says, here are 3 ways to start. We have to decode their world together. Don't assume anything. What does the emoji mean? What is the trend? Curiosity invites conversation and connection. And that's what it is. It has to be a genuine conversation with our teens, with our kids. Educate ourselves, the parents. Push for the digital literacy for parents. Understand that online landscapes shaping identity, behavior, and beliefs. And I think that's kind of key right there, is that the parents don't have as much influence over like my father and my mom had a lot of influence on me because we didn't have this stuff. I think there are other things that are influencing the kids nowadays. And the third thing is, she says, use stories as bridges. watch shows like Adolescence to basically have the conversations, and don't critique. Let the story open the conversation. And as we all know, technology is here to stay, as she said. But I think that's one of the things we need to kind of use our experience, and how can we help these next generations? What can we do to help Craig help others? That 10, 11-year-old who's sitting there getting bullied. What is the answer, or what can we do? Jim, you were going to say something.
It's just, I live this world every day. There's not a single day where I'm not in the cafeteria where I don't tell at least 2 or 3 kids that I'm either giving them a warning for trying to be on their phones, or I have to write them up because it's continuous with them. They're full on addicted. Now, not everybody. And it just goes back to, somebody asked a question, why does a 10-year-old need a phone? But our society is driven by, you got to do what everybody else does. And not every parent. Maybe it's the 80-20 rule, Craig, because I think that is a real thing. I think maybe it got, skewered a little bit with that one perception from that guy. But, most parents give in, and they give in for a number of reasons, because it's hard. It's hard to put your foot down and set the limits and set the boundaries and have the conversations. I tell people all the time, it's the hardest job in the world, parenting. And
Yes.
There's no license for it. You don't got to take a test. Anybody can be a parent. And these kids,
Yes.
they are flat out cruel to each other. The hate that I see, it actually wears on me and my mental and emotional state, because every day I go in there, it's like, it's a battle. It's a battle. And you're not only trying to convince them to make good choices and do the right thing, but then you're trying to comfort the victims, okay, that might be cutting themselves. They might be refusing to come to school. They might be whatever their reasons are. And then on top of that, the parents, so sometimes I feel like it's a no-win situation, but then I go back to, what can I control? And I can control, I tell my students all the time, you can only control your words and actions. So I try to set a good example, and, I try to hold them accountable to our rules. And when I go home, I do my best with my kids, but it's a tough battle out there, man. I don't know. We talked about it last week or 2 weeks ago, all that this generation has to go to compared to, how we grew up. Yeah, we settled our differences easily. I got punched in the eye for the first time because I was being a dick. Right. I'm sorry.
But right. So, what we got to figure, there's got to, I guess the question is, how do you can't solve, you're right, you can't solve the problem. And I guess this is how do we help those who can't help them? It goes back to what Craig does, what Craig's expertise is. Okay, Alex, and once I'll get you next. Identifying those signs that somebody is on the brink. Alex?
Well, I have a question of Jim. I know, Los Angeles Unified had an idea to basically, not to allow kids to have phones during school hours. So to reduce the whole, abuse of phones, bullying during school hours. What do you think about that idea? At least their FaceTime is reduced only before and after school, but during school they have to pay attention.
There's no reason why they need to be on their phones in school.
Yeah, a lot of states.
Our policy is turned off and put away. And put away should be in your locker or in your book bag that's in your classroom.
Idaho state law is from bell to bell. No phone.
Yeah.
Right.
The problem is, you got to have people in places of leadership that are going to
I can enforce it.
enforce it and hold them accountable.
I got something if you guys want to hear this. This came to me from a friend of mine talking about this show. I sent it to her. She's a filmmaker. You ready?
Yeah.
It's it's brilliant. There's her name is Sheila Endreen. filmmaker. She makes educational movies for kids, okay, about all kinds of topics. She actually reached out to me and said, hey, I want to get my stuff into the military. Of course, I can help with that, but that's another story. Here we go. There's an entire underworld online, subcultures, coded messages, and belief system kids are immersed in daily. It's not just about social media, it's about disconnection. These digital rabbit holes are often a symptom of isolation, loneliness, and a longing to belong, brought on in part by the very technology that keeps us distracted from ourselves, our families, and real community connection. And when there's a disconnection and lack of clarity, especially for young men and boys, bad actors, extreme belief systems can fill that void.
What was the last sentence? That what?
Okay. Bad actors and extreme belief systems can fill the void. That's fucking scary, man.
Yeah. I mean,
'Cause
It is.
and I get the need for a phone. Yes, be able to connect, be able to communicate, stuff like that. But there should be an age where you don't need a smartphone. You need to focus on navigating that social environment of middle school, this 10-year-old, how to navigate all these people around you. I mean, you used to be isolated in a class of maybe 25 to 35 people, and that was your world. You moved in that. Fire alarms, you moved with that class. You went to lunch with that class. That was your group. And, you know, there wasn't like, you know, high intensity sports in elementary school. Middle school is about how do you navigate this massive beast when you go into high school, especially the one I work at, that's 5A, 1,400 plus freaking people on the daily. It's intense, man. And I've been teaching my stuff to them since the beginning of the year. Now I'm proud because I'm doing this whole peer accountability thing with the students, and it's working. We haven't had a suicide since August. Okay. Am I holding my breath because the end of the year is coming? Yeah, I'm on pins and needles, man, because I'm learning about this language, and it makes
hold on, Craig. Hold on. Let me interrupt you for a second.
All right.
You've only had one suicide, school suicide in your school. One suicide.
No, I've had no suicides.
Oh, no suicides.
We had one suicide of a former student who was a senior last year.
Got it.
Who,
Okay.
Since August, since they brought me on, I've been teaching peer accountability, my stuff, my classes tailored to their age group. It makes sense, yada, yada, yada. And it's all about peer accountability at small groups at a time versus bringing the entire freshman class in, sophomore class into an auditorium. Because only a third of that group can actually listen to what the hell I'm saying. So small groups and you got to do.
So you're saying the peer accountability comes in the classmates seeing stuff, seeing signs, and speaking up. Yeah.
And there's a positive causality of increase in reporting. Right. That's a good thing. Now, we had one attempt. It wasn't major. And the young lady who was in my class once, she started recognizing it. She's like, well, shit, I'm on my way. She went there. She saw her. She talked to her, and she stopped her. So we had a minor attempt. But so far, and it's not a testament to my stuff. All I'm doing is giving kids the tools they need, like I do everybody else in all these walks of life, to just pay fucking attention, have a conversation. Don't do the Columbia survey. It's not a checklist. It's, are you okay? No, you're not. And here's why I'm asking you if you're okay. Because you're saying shit that's scaring the crap out of me. You know, I don't know you very well. And I bet one kid told me this. She said, Craig, I told her the truth. I don't know her very well. But in that moment, I loved her. And I told her, I love you. If you do this, it'll break my heart. And she poured her heart out, and she just used the tools that I taught. So I never take credit because you guys know how I am. That's not my style. But
Craig, that could be applied to so much more than just, you know, preventing suicide. I mean, suicide's like the last possible thing you want to happen. So it's teaching people to be nice and empathetic and reaching out. I mean, we just don't do it enough.
It's a pillar. Be empathetic. Be resilient. Because you might say that this is the worst day of my entire life. The hell it is. Your next one is coming. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
That's resiliency. And that's what I'm teaching. And it seems to be working because these kids resonate in it. And it's tough. One kid told me, hey, that video showed, we thought it was stupid. It was dumb. I was like, yeah, but what'd you get from it? Oh, the guy's actually fighting a real battle. So it might have been comical to you, but there's still an intent behind it, and you got it. So even the one kid who was just obtrusive and about it, and it still resonated. So no, we haven't had
that's
suicides.
good. That's
No,
that's
it's great.
yeah. That's
It's great.
I mean,
The other
And I
problem
put the credit on
the other
kids.
problem with
I put the credit on the
the
kids.
kids on the phone is like the pipe dream used to be, I'm going to go to the NFL and be an NFL. Now they see what YouTubers make, what influencers make, what you can make playing video games if you're really, really good. And it's like they've lost motivation to do things
I mean, you
that
just have to, I mean,
we just innately did. Like learn,
yes.
you know.
I mean,
Not
if
everybody.
anything-
Not everybody.
yeah. If anything, things have become more objective. But the body, I mean, you've got women doing the OnlyFans, making money online, and
Yeah.
making a shit ton of money. And young girls see that, and
Yeah.
you know, they stick themselves in a spot where, and boys, because they're, you know, the young boys are being, you know, lured into this stuff as well, where, you know, it just, I mean, it is
Oh,
1,000 times more dangerous out there, and you've got to have your shit together and head on a swivel.
I got a 14-year-old daughter,
Yeah.
and she sees super skinny women with makeup on and certain kinds of clothes on, and sees it as what she's supposed to look like, and feels bad about herself when she doesn't.
Right.
And you got boys who are watching the same stuff, saying that's what the women who are good look like, and everybody else isn't. And the girls who can look like that, go to school looking like that. My daughter has former friends, they're not friends anymore, who show up. Like I chaperoned last week, I chaperoned a field trip, and some of these 8th grade girls, if I met them at a bar, I'd assume they were 23, 24 by the way they're dressed and the way they look. And
Wow.
you wouldn't know, and they're 14 years old. And you wouldn't know until
Yes.
they open their mouth and start to talk, and then you realize they're smarter than a lot of the 23-year-olds I know. But no, but in all seriousness, and the boys get messages from that. The boys get the boys get messages.
Messages.
Oh, yeah.
I'll say this.
Yeah.
I remember those messages.
Yes, exactly.
Michael, if this is the time of the year where my op tempo starts to increase, because a lot of schools, especially here in the valley, are like, hey, can we get you? Because we're getting to that end of the year. And the reason why it's so important is because a lot of kids dread being at home for a long period of time, spring break, weekends, whatever. You know this. I've got kids in my school, 1,400 plus, 39 kids are homeless. So they dread the time off because their safe space, and I'm preaching to the choir here, is school. It has a construct. It has a momentum. It's got a pattern, rhythm that they can navigate. So if you want me to get to your daughter's, your kid's school, and Jim to get to your school, let me know. We'll work it out, make the trip, teach my stuff. I'm telling you, if we get to it before the summer starts, they get back in the fall, they'll have a better outlook in life, because that lady I told you about, she just put, there's 3 ways that we help out our kids. 1, to code their world together. So parents need to be involved.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Parents,
There you go.
staff,
There you go, right there.
those are the people that they're exposed to the most. Okay. Educate ourselves, like we were talking. If we don't become subject matter experts in this shit, it's like when that show 13 Reasons Why came out.
Right.
I was a manager for the U.S. Army at the time, and I saw an increase in female teenage suicides, mirroring what that young lady did the last episode.
Yeah.
When it's up. I'm a tactical medic. I'm telling you, if you do that next to me, I can't stop that bleeding. You got 30 seconds. Okay. Anyways, her third point is use stories as a bridge, meaning we don't critique.
Right.
When I'm talking somebody down, I will always ask, hey, can I tell you something that kind of relates to the situation on how I survive? And I always, you got to ask permission. It's not about me. You can relate. So you can see that, hey, you're 27 years old and you've got PTSD and you're all fucked up. Let me tell you how I got through it to get to this point. You know, so they can see that light in the tunnel. Like, oh shit, okay, so you mean that I'm gonna have to go through a lot more between now and then? Fucking A.
Yeah.
So giddy up, dude.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story, and then a punchline that only Ed will laugh at, which is that my mother once asked a guy who worked with teenagers all the time. She said, sort of, what's your secret? And he said, what I've really learned about working with teenagers is this. 90% of what they're going through on some level is sort of the same cliche stuff that millions of teenagers for millions of years have gone through. But for them, it's the most unique, most intense, you wouldn't understand feeling ever. and to communicate to them. If you can convey to them a sense of that perspective that what you're going through, other people have gone through and have gotten through, without talking down to them and giving them the impression you're saying, oh, you're just a teenager going through teenager stuff. Quit your whining.
Right.
You need to make the bridge from this is a very universal feeling and you're not alone.
Validate it.
To I understand without insulting them. If you can make that bridge and give them that perspective, you've won half the battle. And that person was Ed, who told my mother that.
Who told your? I don't know. Who told your mother that?
John Cosgrove in
You know what
1987.
I was going to say. You know what I was going to say, Cos. That sounded like.
He was the guy who ran our retreat program, our Kairos program at our high school, and was in his 20s when he worked there, and still maintains a good friendship with me and my family.
Hey, but I had a Craig. You just made a comment to Jim about trying to get to his school. You know what we should? If you come east, because Jim's only in Jersey, and Alan, Crazy Man, and myself are in VA. We should try to see if we can get you down here to do a school or two down here. We should try to give you an East Coast swing, because even Mike's, Michael's kids, we could make this something.
Hey, you know what? I had this idea with not only you, but some other of our friends from that network we were involved with. I don't even want to say it, but we could do it. We could do it like this. I mean,
even virtually.
You don't need to be in.
Yeah,
person.
I did it. I did it recently. I was supposed to go to a men's weekend up in Calgary, and they had this massive 3-story cabin, gorgeous, And I just couldn't get away. So we did it via Zoom, and I was reluctant to do things, virtually because it's hard to get the feel. But the group,
right?
I mean, these guys were invested men.
Yeah, they're engaged. They're engaged.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they've had struggles themselves. They got kids with struggles. 2 of the guys that were there, I helped talk down their sons, over the phone, which is a very difficult thing to do. Okay, because I can't see micro expressions. I can't see the way they're, the body language, all the things that I use to fill the void, if you will. And it turned out so well that, I'm getting constant communication from those guys going, hey man, what do you think about this? Yeah, I've got a situation here. Am I overlooking it? Whatever. But since I've been teaching those guys up in Canada, I did 5 deals last year. Then this virtual thing, it's been helping one person at a time. That's the best I can do, because I can't fix what I don't know is broke.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, I've had to accept the reality that I'm not going to fix society 1,500 people at a time in an audience. It's going to be these small groups. It's going to be this wildfire that spreads. And that's what it is. Small group is the fire, and then it just lets loose, and word of mouth takes over. And that's what's been working. Yeah, man. You guys know that. If you want me to get on the East Coast and do a little thing,
or do something, we'll figure something out as we come to the summer months. Well, we're coming up on 50 minutes, guys. This was a great episode, Craig. This was awesome. Does anybody have any final comments? Alex, anybody? Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, it was a great show, and all the shows I've been involved with decades have been great. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to make this my last show though, for personal reasons. But we'll stay in touch.
All right, so are we going to sit here? Is this like an April Fool's, or is this like serious? Since it's April
Lord,
1st.
Ed.
What's that?
I just
okay.
Give you all that. That's what you come up with.
Yes. I just
had to come out of my comfort zone and everything.
Well, Jim, we'll miss.
Hey, stay on afterwards, and we'll talk about it a little bit.
We'll miss.
I put my contact info in the chat, my phone number, and the best email to get me. So pass it on to the guys there, Ed.
Absolutely will. All right, guys, this was a great show. Next week we'll have Decades Thunderdome. We're going to continue this conversation, make sure you read
the comments before you go.
Hey, Jim, thanks for everything, man.
What's that?
Make sure you read the private chat before you.
He got you, Mike. He got you.
Yeah, Yeah,
We couldn't go the whole episode without something.
But Jim, it was good, man. You were like this. You're
yeah,
like,
you were really, Jim. You were really good. I was like,
I didn't know how
what?
to react when you said that, Ed. I was like, oh shit.
Now, have you guys?
Because I hadn't seen it.
Alex's
No,
face has not changed the entire episode. It's been the same, the exact same. I mean, Daryl.
Yeah, that was
Jim, I
Jim,
was just rounds.
Jim, you
We
don't.
were just trying to keep up with you, Craig. I couldn't follow everything. I was like, oh my god, I got to take notes here.
And Jim,
Hey.
I knowing you, I was in my mind. I was thinking things. I was like, oh, fudge. Anyway, yes,
Yeah.
crazy man. What is it? Then we'll go wrap
Hey,
this thing up.
Alex, what did you think about your happy birthday? Did you watch the old episode?
Did you? Yeah. Did you watch the
Yeah,
last
we sang
episode?
to you, dude. Where were
We
you?
sang "Happy Birthday" to you, Alex, on the show you weren't on.
I did watch it. Yes, I did.
Obviously,
Eastern
we're
European happy
trying to
face
forget
right there.
about it.
It
We're
was
trying to
it
forget
was
he said that.
it was that great. It was that great. He didn't even comment on the episode. He
Look at Michael. Michael's like that ungrateful freaking bastard.
yeah, exactly. We sing and sing.
I rehearsed that song for days, trying to get just the right pitch.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah,
We didn't get it. We didn't get
Tune
it.
in.
at all.
Anyway, great job, guys. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your week. Everybody, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.